kommen jetzt zu unserer finalen Keynote, zu unserer Closing Keynote für Tag 1. Kann es kaum glauben, dass es schon 9:30 ist hier in Vancouver, dass wir quasi schon durch sind mit unserem Programm. And I'm really excited to welcome Keith Neumeyer now for our closing keynote and closing presentation. And Keith and I discussed that we're going to start with a quick presentation, Q1 update from First Majestic, and then we're going to chat silver and developments in the silver markets. I'm quite excited to have that banter with him and close with a nice fireside chat discussion there. Keith, wonderful. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on a holiday.
Yeah, no problem, Kai. It's a little bit rainy here as well, so no point in going outside.
I'm quite happy that I don't have a window here in my little studio, so I don't have to see it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Please go start the presentation, and then once you're through with First Majestic, we'll talk silver.
Oh, sure. Okay. I'm just going to quickly go through this. This is a bit of an executive summary version of our PowerPoint. So let me just figure out how to use this, advance it. What the heck is going on here? I'm trying to advance it. Must be a trick. Oh, here we go. So despite the fact that we've just bought a gold mine in Nevada, we're still one of the purest silver. I think we are still the purest silver company in the world. At 60% of our revenues from the sale of silver and 40% in gold. The nice thing about these 4 operations that we have, 3 in Mexico and 1 in the United States now, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes, is 100% of our production is from doré bars, which is quite a bit different than a lot of mining companies who produce concentrates. So we're not at the mercy of smelters, and it's really helped the business, I think, over the last couple of years when we converted or changed the business slightly to shut down our concentrate producing assets. The market cap has done fairly well over the year. Of course, we're in the midst of or at least in the early stages of what I think is a new bull market that will likely last probably several years into the future. And so the stock has performed with the rest of the sector. Our balance sheet is quite healthy with a large cash position and very little debt. And here's a list of our top shareholders. Eric Sprott being our largest shareholder now, and that's a result of the Jerritt Canyon acquisition. He got a large share position in First Majestic as a function of that purchase. And the assets are spread around, as I said. So 3 producing mines in Mexico, Dimas, Santa Elena, La Cantada, and then of course Jerritt Canyon in northern Nevada there, which I just came back from a couple of days, well, about a week ago now. I'm still in quarantine actually, but nevertheless, I'll talk about Jerritt in a few minutes. And of course, we have our projects that are kind of our legacy mines, which the ones in yellow there, and those are currently we're looking for partners for those, for what we think are really good assets and deserve to be in the hands of, some junior companies. Our production is going to go up fairly nicely as a result of the Jerritt Canyon acquisition. On a silver equivalency basis, we're north of 30 million ounces. And if many of you might have heard or seen our news release back in January of 2021, where we talked about our guidance, and I said in that news release that our target is to get up to about 33 million ounces by 2023, and that did not include Jerritt Canyon, interestingly enough. So our target by 2023 is now changed to be north of 40 million ounces silver equivalent by the end of 2023. So this is Jerritt Canyon. Large land package. It's been in a number of hands over the last 15 years, and it's never really had the investment that it deserved, with such a big land package like this, and then just not getting a drill hole, or drills spinning, exploring this property is really unfortunate. Well, it's great for us, of course, but because we think we picked up a great asset for a good price. The production as well has been hindered because of lack of exploration. Of course, without exploration, you're not going to do development. So both development and exploration are 2 areas of focus of ours for the next couple of years. The mill is currently operating at 2,200 tons per day, but the capacity is over 4,000. It's actually close to 5,000. We have 4,500 tons on here, and at those levels, this mine will be producing, at least twice what it's producing today. It did produce about 112,000 ounces of gold in 2020, and we're expecting about the same for 2021. Look for guidance that we'll be putting out in July, but we hope to see some growth in 2022 and 2023. And interestingly enough, you see this photograph on the right here. This is a roaster. This is one of 3 roasters in all of Nevada. 2 are owned by Newmont Barrick, and of course one's owned by us. So and this roaster is not running at capacity, and we've been approached by a number of groups that are looking to use this facility as a toll treating facility. So we haven't included any toll treating in any of our budgets, but it's an interesting business proposition that we're currently examining with some of the potential suppliers of ore that this facility could be taking advantage of. So it really checked all the boxes for us. When we look at M&A activity, first off, does it have exploration potential? Does it have the potential of expanding life of mine? And does it have production expansion potential? This asset has all of those. It also produced doré, as I said. It doesn't produce silver, but it's a great gold asset and something we're very excited about having in our portfolio. And it's our first investment outside of Mexico. We are now in 2 countries, the United States and Mexico, and we're happy to be in the state of Nevada. We think it's a great place to be, and we're very excited about being there. So just look for news, as we develop this asset over the next several months. Jumping to San Dimas, I'm going to skip through a lot of this because a lot of this is the same and nothing's really changed over the last year or so. San Dimas is running at 2,200 tons per day. It used to be at 1,700. We've been expanding it slowly. We have plans to get it up to 3,000 tons per day. Those plans have been slightly delayed due to COVID, and so we've got the equipment on site. We've actually had to build a camp, for contractors and so on, which is still under construction. So there's a number of things that are going on site that have slowed the expansion down, but we still have our objectives of getting it up to 3,000 tons per day. And obviously, as a 13 million ounce producer, at a higher rate at these types of grades, it's going to be a bigger mine over the next couple of years, which we're excited about. Santa Elena has been receiving a lot of attention, a lot of investment from us. Ermitaño, which is the neighboring, it's a property that's about 4 kilometers away from this mill, will become the new feed of this operation starting in Q1 of 2021. Ermitaño's been a property that we've been, you can see it in blue here, that red dot, we've been developing since 2016. And it's a great ore body, and it's going to displace the feed from the heaps that used to, or that are currently feeding this mill to the tune of about 40% of total throughput. You can see the size of this land package. It's a monster land package, over 100,000 hectares in size. You can see Las Chipas up there, which is Silvercrest property in the white square, that red dot. We're drilling in the green area, the Los Hernandez area. We're also drilling in Santa Elena, the pink area, and also the blue area there, Ermitaño. We've got rigs still spinning, and it's a very exciting part of Mexico. It's a lot of people call it the Carlin Trend of Mexico. So here we are, now that we've got a Nevada-based operation as well. It's the geology is somewhat similar. And this is Ermitaño here. You can see the grades, high gold grades. You see the camp we put in place there. We had to do that due to COVID. It did step us back a little bit, and we had about a 6-month delay to get this camp up and running. But they're on track now. We're going to be getting ore brought to site, or probably brought to surface. You can see on the slide 50 to 60,000 tons of ore we hope to have on surface by the end of the year, and we'll start feeding that material into the mill in Q1 of 2022, and that's going to nicely expand this operation. Despite the throughput staying much the same, the grades of the head feed ore will improve, and thus costs will drop, as well as production will increase. And technology, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but we're very proud of the technology that we've been able to bring into the business. It's been a huge impact for us. If you go back even a prior year, we ran out of room on this slide, but 2014, we had recoveries of the mid 60s, and now we're in the high 80s. We're actually at 88% total recovery of metal, silver in 2000, highest year ever in history. our metallurgists feel that 95% globally is a good target to reach over the next couple of years, and that's what we're focusing our research and development on today. And LNG is a big component of Santa Elena. You see this photograph here. This quite large facility has been under construction for well over a year, and it just got turned on last month. It's now supplying somewhere around 80-85% of total power to the Santa Elena operation, and it'll get up to 90-95% as it's commissioned fully. And that's going to save us a lot of money. This operation used to use diesel. Same with Lincoln Tata. We converted Lincoln Tata over, I guess it's been 4 or 5 years now, and it was a big success for us to get to stop using diesel Lincoln Tata. And here at Santa Elena, we spend over $12 million a year on diesel just for this one operation. So to have LNG replacing diesel, it's going to save us millions of dollars on an annualized basis. So we're now using it. You can see it's a pretty attractive looking facility, and we're quite proud of it. And this is our purity. As you can see, we're still the highest in the industry. Our short positions come down quite a lot, due to the big silver squeeze, which was nice to see. It's more normal, for a mining company, I think. And our dividend, which was announced at the end of 2020, is now we've called the record date, and we'll be paying this out. So it's not a huge dividend, but we're looking to increase this over time. But it's nice to finally do this. It's been a goal of mine to pay a dividend to shareholders for the last several years, and it's great to finally be able to do this, and I'm proud of being able to do that. And Kai, that's the end of my presentation, if there's any questions.
Fantastic. Lots of questions, Keith. Lots of questions. Of course, people are asking about your crystal ball and how it's working today. So lots of questions about silver price developments and gold-silver ratio. But before we get to that, I have a couple of follow-up questions, because you just put out your Q1 numbers, and it tags in perfectly with your last slide, I think, as well, because you highlighted silver prices, exclamation marks, catalysts, and you mentioned the silver squeeze on one of your last slides. So, and I saw, I want to pick that up from the Q1 numbers. You sold $4.8 million worth of bullion and coins through the store.
Mm-hmm.
Put that a bit into perspective. By itself, it doesn't sound like much, but it's the first time I've noticed it, that you put out that number specifically in the press release, right? Mm-hmm. So give us some guidance and put some context around that.
Yeah, that business we put together over a decade ago, and it was really to supply silver to our shareholders, because our shareholders were asking for it. And so we started this business, and back in 2011, 2012, when silver had the big run, we had some interesting sales, but it's never been a huge part of our business. It's just, we never tried to make a profit doing it either. It was more of a, just as marketing or whatever you may call it, but just to supply the demand. We just did it, but all of a sudden, this silver squeeze happened, and we just got ripped out of all our inventory in a matter of days, and we were quite surprised by that. And now we're trying to fill our warehouses up with silver again. And I just thought it was a significant number. It's 10 times higher than our normal sales. And I can tell you, if we had more inventory in our vault, we could sell more today, because we're, if you go onto our website, look, most of our products are sold out because we just can't get them fast enough. And I guess the commercials are gobbling up all the silver for whatever they need, and the retail guys are being left behind.
That's crazy. You're planning to set up a proper store downtown Vancouver?
Well, now with a Nevada-based operation, we're actually thinking of we've hired another individual for this department, so we're really starting to take it a little bit more seriously, because these revenues, or pardon me, the sales aren't dropping. We're still getting dozens of orders a day for retail products, and so we're likely going to be expanding the business. I think it's going to help us with the Nevada-based operation. We could actually use that facility to warehouse metal and maybe distribute it better to our customers at a lower cost.
Well, what is fascinating, I don't know any other silver producers that sell their own bullion and coins, so it is quite unique from that perspective as well, right? So you have that uniqueness factor. Talking about silver coins real quick, I just want to remind everybody, we are raffling off, or you are actually, First Majestic is raffling off a 10-ounce silver coin, and make sure to register through the link that we just posted in the chat as well. And make sure to do that. We're going to raffle off and announce the winner after our 2-day event here. We have to cross our databases, make sure that everybody who signed up for your first Majestic coin also registered for DGM. That's one of the conditions. And got to make sure that that works. But let's. You talked about Nevada. We have a question in the chat, and is First Majestic looking to buy additional Nevada properties with refractory or to fill the roster? You hinted at that during the presentation.
Yeah, I can't comment on exact M&A discussions that we're having, but I could tell people that we're looking for silver assets, and I want to see our silver percentage go up. It's dropped a little bit over the last few years because the last couple of acquisitions were quite rich in gold, and this last one was basically 99% gold with very little silver. So I'm very conscious of that. Nevada is very much a gold state, despite the fact it's called the silver state. But we're looking everywhere. We look throughout all the Americas, including even other continents for good silver projects, and we'll see what happens. But when it comes to filling the mill, our long-term goal is to do our own exploration development to fill that mill with our own ore. But that's going to take a couple of years to accomplish because the mine is quite far behind on exploration development. In the meantime, we may be doing some deals with some local suppliers of ore that could fit the chemistry or the metallurgy to feed that mill. That has yet to be determined, but there are discussions on it.
Okay, let's talk silver squeeze and a bit of the ramifications as well, because I think it brought a lot of interest to the sector. And maybe one thing we can toss in here as well is the recent drop in Bitcoin and how that fits together. Do you see a link between the two now that Wall Street Bets and Wall Street Silver have been hopping on the silver train? Do you see there's a correlation, silver going higher, Bitcoin dropping? Do you see them, the hodlers jumping over to silver?
It's really hard to say. I see Bitcoin and I see the cryptos moving as they have over the last year, and a lot of people have said it's hurting gold. And I'm sure they're right. I gather a lot of people have been chasing the cryptos, in favor of gold, and now where it looks like that's reversing. A bid has come into gold. It's now approaching 1900, and as Bitcoin has been dropping, and so I gather these analysts are correct in that assumption. I don't have any inside information, or I don't actually even know anyone that owns Bitcoin. So most of the miners tend to stay away from cryptocurrencies as far as I'm concerned. And I look at the crypto environment very similar to the dot-com bubble back in 2000, and I lived through that, and I invested in the dot-com bubble, and there was times I made money and there was times I lost money, and I see crypto as almost a duplicate market kind of made up phenomenon that that environment was back in 2000. So I've stayed away from it, but it's nice to see gold getting a bit for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're going to put your $200 million in cash into Bitcoin just to test the liquidity of the new asset. So
no, thank you.
No. We get some more questions. Let's jump to them. And Keith, are you able to set up Spotlink term contracts with manufacturers? They get supply certainty, and First Majestic can avoid the middleman.
Yes, you could, but the consumers want a fixed price. So I don't think First Majestic shareholders would be very happy if I decided to sell 5 million ounces of silver to Sony at a fixed price. That's something the banks do. That's what they're there for. And if Tesla or Sony or Apple needs a bunch of silver, they go through the banking system and they sign contracts, long-term 12-month contracts normally at a fixed price. And that bank, goes to the miners and gets that silver to deliver to industry. And it's the bank who takes that short position against their physical supply that they're getting from the bank, from the miners. If we did that same thing, then why would anyone want to buy First Majestic? They might as well just go buy silver.
No, that makes sense. You do want that upside to higher gold, silver prices there, definitely. Right. One question, we had the company presenting just 15 minutes before you came on. That was Blackrock Silver. And can you share your thoughts on the recent investment in Blackrock Silver?
Yeah, it's a new story that's kind of been developing, and it is early, mind you. It's I don't even think they have a 43-101 report out yet, or a resource estimate, anyways. And so it is a little bit speculative, but it's a very interesting area, and they've got a lot of sniffs. So we didn't throw a whole bunch of money at it, but I still think it's got a good chance of doing well. And now that we're in Nevada, we have to keep our eyes open. And we're hoping to expand our portfolio in Nevada. But exactly how that's going to happen or what that's going to look like is way too early to tell. But by looking at some of these juniors active in the state, could be a good way for us to get a foothold in some new projects.
We talked about this, I think it was about last year in April when you sold Plomosas to GR Silver, about that investing, getting more active, more on the junior side, investing into companies like a Blackrock Silver or GR Silver that you financially back. Is that more of a strategy, or are you going to build up a bit of a portfolio now?
It has been working that way. We've got some pretty interesting share positions in some new companies. We saw, of course, the asset you mentioned, but also La Jolla, we sold to Silver Dollar and as well, and they're developing. They're seemingly having some pretty good success getting into the property, and it looks like they're going to be drilling sometime in the next couple of months, which will be fantastic. So, and also with 4 non-core assets on our portfolio as well. The La Pria, La Catera, San Martin, and Del Toro. These are great properties with fantastic mills sitting right on surface, ready to be fed. But they're small for us. They're 1 or 2 million ounce producers, and they just don't simply fit into our portfolio as well as they did previously. So we're looking for partners for those 4 assets. And yes, we're going to get share positions. I don't think a junior is going to, give us a large check for those assets. We're going to end up with very chunky share positions in our partners who will take over those projects. So yes, we'll end up with a portfolio for sure.
Cool, sounds good. And just had another question. Did escape me. No, we got to talk silver price and silver gold ratio. Those were the most questions we've been getting. And let's get out the crystal ball. Let's look at gold silver ratio and silver price to the end of the year.
I can't imagine silver not being over $30 by the end of the year. We've now hit 28 on, I think, 3 separate occasions. Just in the recent months, and it's like this invisible hand just doesn't want it to go through 28. It gets knocked down pretty quickly, but I think next run at 28, I think it's going to get through. Often, on a 4th attempt, these things generally happen, and so I think it's going to get through next time. Hopefully, I'm right. And when it does, I think it was going to go straight to 30, almost right within days or weeks of that event occurring. And this ratio, it's been, stuck here for a while. And, I'm a big believer in the ratio being close to the mining ratio. Based on 2020 production numbers, miners globally are producing 7 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold being mined, which is a ridiculously low ratio. It's shocking how little silver is actually being mined these days in a market that is growing. We're consuming more silver and need more silver, and yet the miners are producing less. So I think we're coming into a perfect storm for silver.
You mentioned we need more silver. Let's lift the skirt a little bit on the silver supply market and demand market, of course. Green Energy Initiative is a big topic, of course, and silver, I think, plays a pivotal role as well. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Like, give us some more details. Like, where do you see the next, let's say, demand, or how do you call it, the demand explosion maybe come from, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, we see solar panels now, consuming more than 100 million ounces of silver a year. The miners produced last year around 760 million ounces, I think it was. So you've got one industry consuming now, 12, 13% of total production. Then you've got electric cars, which is a relatively new phenomenon. And it's hard to get good stats on what electric cars are using, because no one wants to tell you how much copper is needed or how much silver is needed, because they're paranoid about us knowing as investors, because we're going to front run the auto industry or something. But silver is such a small component in a $100,000 vehicle anyways. So silver could go to $200 or $300 an ounce, and it hardly would change the sticker price on a car. But nevertheless, they do worry about things like this. And I was listening to a commodity trader yesterday on an interview, and they're calling for $20,000 copper per pound, or per ton. I mean, and that's basically twice where it is today. So that's all virtually $10 copper, which of course now, copper's already in record territory. So if it doubles again from here, what does that do to silver? Because I correlate silver closer to copper than silver to gold. And so, you're going to see probably a triple on silver if copper doubles. And then, then it starts to get interesting.
Very true. We got a couple of questions on the political. We're jumping around a little bit, but we got a couple of questions more on the political side. And how do you rank Mexico, South America? We've been seeing some changes there in terms of taxation or proposed changes. That's alluding to Argentina and Chile, or not Argentina, sorry, Peru and Chile. And how do you see that also in Mexico developing, the political development?
We know the whole world is becoming more socialist, we know, and this whole globalization trend that's been going on for the last 30 years, 70 years actually, since the 40s, since Brentwood, and then U.S. dollar, underpinning the global financial community and so on and so forth. There's been this huge focus on globalization. And now with current governments, we're seeing that trend going reverse, where governments are turning into inwards and being more protectionist, and then that is affecting supply chains. It's going to affect commodities, and it's going to be very good for commodity prices, but it's not going to be necessarily great for some miners that may be in jurisdictions that may be somewhat under pressure, to put potentially restrict mining or make mining more difficult or expropriation or whatever the case may be. We're getting into a fairly interesting environment where I think political risk is elevated to a point where the miners really have to be aware of their surroundings. This is one of the reasons why we went north rather than went south. We've looked at assets in a variety of countries, Latin American countries, and we've shied away from investing in those regions, due to that exact issue or that exact concern. We're happy to be in Nevada, and we don't see those same kinds of things happening in Canada or the United States or Australia.
No, that makes sense. And I was going to ask, I lost my train of thought. It's been a long day. I've been up since 2:30. Oh, it was a good question too. Oh, I liked it. Yes, inflation. That's the one. Because I know we have a hard cutoff here in a second as well, because you have to go. Okay. But inflation, like you are a producer, so I can ask you that. Do you see inflation creeping into your production costs already? Is that a factor?
It's something that we're very well aware of. Energy costs, a big component of mining costs, have gone up, 3 times basically, or at least twice, since over the last couple of years. And fortunately, we've converted our diesel, operations over to LNG, so that's going to save us a lot of money. Also, over the last 5 years, we've improved our recoveries, as I mentioned in the presentation, from the mid 60s to the high 80s, which of course affects costs. Labor costs are something we have very little control over, and there is labor inflation happening around the world, and that's just a function of what's happening in all industries, not just in mining. So yes, there is inflation, but don't forget the mining sector did go through a pretty difficult time back, during the last bear market, when things fell apart back in 2012 and through 2014. And I think from a large part, the mining sector has learned a lesson, in not overspending. And then you still see, M&A activities, the companies like ourselves, when we go and buy an asset, we're always doing sensitivity studies. We'll run gold at $1,100, $1,200 to see what it looks like. Not that I'm expecting to see those prices, but we have to do it just to protect the business and protect our shareholders. And despite the fact I'm a believer that gold's going to go to 3,000, probably higher, we can't be buying assets today looking for $3,000. We have to be buying assets expecting that the price will drop ultimately, because there's a cyclical business, and I think we're in probably another 10-year market. We're probably only in the second or third year of that cycle, but at the same time, we have to be smart when building the business.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And with higher gold price and higher silver prices, like one thing that always happens, automatic inflation, because contractors see, well, they're making more money. On the other hand, they can see it on a daily basis, what you can sell your silver or your product for, right? So,
of course.
that is all automatically priced in. Keith, I really, really appreciate your time. Thanks for being our closing keynote speaker today. Thanks for coming on board and on a holiday. And you are in Vancouver, so it is a holiday for you. It's a holiday in Germany today as well. So I appreciate everybody joining here. Thanks so much, Keith.
Thank you.
And everybody, be reminded, we are giving away a 10-ounce silver coin together with First Majestic, so make sure to sign up. The link is here in the chat, and we'll be announcing the winner, obviously, after the event, which is, we have another date tomorrow. So, Keith, I'm going to switch over. I'm going to talk about the agenda for tomorrow for a second, and let me do that. Thanks, Keith.